Hello and welcome. You are through to Liberated Voices. I am your host, Insia Fatima, and this is
Hussein Abuda Ali Biakidis. And today we'll be speaking to Luwezi Kinshasa from the African Socialist International. He is the secretary and also running the African People's Socialist Party in the United Kingdom. So welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's really a privilege and an honor for me to be in this show. So I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
So a lot of our listeners, they might not have heard of the African Socialist International. Can you just give us a bit of a background of who you are and how you came to be?
My name is Luwezi Kinshasa, and I live in the UK, United Kingdom, and I'm originally from Congo, in Central Africa. And you have not heard of the African People's Socialist Party for the simple reasons that the Black Revolution has been defeated militarily in the 60s. If you speak to people who are old enough in the community, they will tell you they heard of Patrice Lumumba, they heard of Malcolm X, they heard of Martin Luther King, they heard of Kwame Nkrumah, but all these great leaders have been overthrown, assassinated by the United States governments in the 60s. And in their place, what the United States has put in Africa and also in the Black community is what we call neocolonial regime or neocolonial leadership. That's why you haven't heard of the Black Liberation Movement as it was in the 60s. That's why you haven't heard of the African People's Socialist Party, which is an organization created in 1972. And it was created as a response, a conscious response to the defeat of the Black Revolution, that the revolution had to be kept alive, and that at this time, the struggle of Black people has to be led by the African working class, as opposed to the struggle being led by the African petit bourgeoisie. The way you see today in Africa or in the United States or in the UK, wherever you see a Black community, generally speaking, when you see the leadership, you're looking at the African petit bourgeoisie. That's why you haven't seen the voice, you haven't heard of the voice of the revolution, and you haven't heard of Chairman Omali Stella, who is the founder of this movement that is known as the Uhuru Movement. That's what most people know as. And the Uhuru Movement is led by the African People's Socialist Party. And the unions of all the African People's Socialist Parties in the world is what gives rise to African Socialist International. So that's what I can say, just to introduce myself and the organization created by Chairman Omali.
That's really interesting. Thank you so much, Luwezi. I guess my first question is, what kind of stuff do you do in the UK? And what does your organization do?
Yeah. As I say, this organization, the African People's Socialist Party, was created in 1972 in the midst of defeat. So our job primarily was to bring back Black people, generally speaking, back to revolutionary life, to bring them back to politics, but under the leadership of the African working class, because you have to know that our struggle in the 60s has been led by a sector of our community we refer to as the African petit bourgeoisie. They led the struggle. And as you know, they collaborated with the colonial bourgeoisie to basically to attack the revolution. So our job basically is to bring back our people to political life under our leadership to complete the revolution of the 60s. So we've been doing a lot of work, educating, bringing the understanding why nobody talks about the 60s, the revolutionary movement of the 60s, why Africa is suffering so much, why there is humiliation everywhere you look. Black people, what do you see? You see humiliation, you see poverty, and we refer to this colonialism. That's what people look at that. So that's one thing we do: educate, and bring back people to organize. But at the same time, as I said, we are starting from the point of view that our struggles fought within the colonial boundaries imposed on us by the colonizers have reached their limitation. So we organize in Europe as a region. So we are not just in the UK, we're organizing in Belgium, we're organizing in France and so on. In Africa, that's also we do. We don't just organize in one place, but we organize as regional forces, the region of West Africa, the region of East Africa, the region of Southern Africa, and so on. The same in the US, we also organize in regions. So we've been doing things like, I'll give you just two examples. One thing people are familiar with in this country is the question of reparations. I'm not sure if you have heard about the reparations. The African demanding reparation for centuries of colonial slavery, and also for the ongoing massive imprisonment of Black people, for failing schools, for all kind of ways the colonizers have been looting our communities. Gentrification in the UK, for example, is real. Black people being pushed out. All this is gentrification itself is a form of colonialism. So, just to be short, reparation is a strategic demand we have introduced in our community. So our people, wherever they are, whatever they agree with us or not, is to go in the same direction. And the reparation demand is an anti-colonial demand. So whatever you are a member or not, most of the Black people agree that the United Kingdom government, the French government, all the colonized government, all African reparation for centuries of colonial slavery. They all agree. So we go in the same direction. But also, the question of white people, this is a question that was not resolved in the 60s because people like Malcolm X and Lumumba and others were assassinated before they discuss the question of white people. White people are part of the world, but we recognize they are the colonizers. They belong to the nation of the colonizers. For example, you have Britain, you have the United States, you have France. They love to call us immigrants or, Black and ethnic minority, all these fancy words they use. But the reality is what? Is that we are colonized people. So they are the colonizers. So it's not a question for us to unite with the colonizers, but the question of the colonizers uniting with the demands of the colonized people. So the colonizers, the citizens of the colonizing nation, uniting with our demand for self-determination, our demand of reparation. So the role of white people in Britain, in France, wherever the colonizers are, is to work under our leadership, not to tell us what to do, but to be in material solidarity with us, basically to work under our leadership to pay reparations to our movement. This is the relationship we have. And this is in opposition to the struggle against racism. We don't believe in something like that because struggle against racism doesn't take us anywhere. So it's no question of the colonizers saying they like us or that tolerate us. It doesn't solve the problems of gentrification, poverty in our community, police containments, things like that. Because all the wealth stolen from us are in the hands of the colonizers. We are poor because the colonizers colonize us. That's why we are poor. So they have to return the stolen resources so we too can have life. We are materialists, so we can have life too. So the role of white people basically is to be in solidarity with us and to provide material solidarity with us. So this is some of the work we've been doing here or elsewhere in the US and Africa and so on. But of course, the biggest part of our movement is in the US. It was born there. So that's where you can see full display of all the strategies and tactics we can talk about.
I used to listen to a lot of Amali's lectures. He really, I could listen for hours to him. he inspired a lot of my thinking. And I was very impressed a lot about the idea of fighting for Black power rather than fighting against racism. It was like you were talking about earlier. It was you're not just. It's all about having power for yourselves rather than relying on the goodwill or. I can't remember. I think it was Che Guevara or someone who said, "Freedom has never been given by appealing to the good nature of your oppressor." And we've seen this throughout history. There's never been an example otherwise. And I was quite impressed as well with in the US. I remember there was an organization, I think African People's Solidarity.
Committee. That's what Chairman Amalas created. Yeah.
That was white people working
under the leadership of our party.
The leadership of Africans, which is something it's very rare to see with activists.
Yes.
With white activists, however good-natured they might be, there is always a sort of condescending attitude, not just towards Africans, but towards everyone really who's not in their party or their sort of belief. So that was very impressive to see.
Definitely.
I just, on that note, I have a question. I think, Hussein, you bring up such an important point. I think it's a matter of us having a colonized mindset. Do you think that's somewhat true, especially in the UK, where we feel like colonization is kind of a thing of the past, right? So with things like gentrification and stuff, we don't really see it as what it is. It is colonization. Do you think that maybe that's one of the main issues that we have going on at the moment? And if so, how are we going to overcome that?
Yeah, this is very important question, because the significance of Chairman Marisela is really huge. It's profound, because this question of colonialism is central. It's really central, in the sense that what Chairman Marisela is saying now is that we do not have really capitalism as such. What we have is colonial capitalism. Because he says that what took Europe out of poverty, what took Europe out of feudalism, because remember, when Europe met Africa and the rest of the world, Europe was feudal. It was no capitalist, it was feudal. But the question everybody has to answer, how Europe came out of feudalism. What took Europe out of feudalism? Of course, if you listen to the theologians, to the bourgeois scholars, that will make you believe, white people are so smart that they got out of feudalism. No, it's not that. It's colonialism, an attack on Africa, an attack on the Americas, an attack on Asia, looting of Africa, looting of the Americas, looting of the Middle East, looting of Asia. That's what took Europe out of feudalism and propelled Europe forward. That's how capitalism came into being. And this is fundamental. We believe this is the starting point. So the attack, in fact, when we win white people to work under leadership, because we recognize the starting point is colonialism. If you want to have a relationship, a genuine relationship, it cannot be built upon colonialism. It cannot be. And the only way to do it is to get white people to unite with the struggle to end colonialism as a mode of production. And that's basically where we are. That's why we are able now to have white people in our movement to rejoin humanity instead of being in self-isolation from humanity, to rejoin humanity in more than 130 cities. That's why our movement came under attack, because the bourgeoisie in the United States understand the significance of winning white people. For the first time, we need to join the real struggle to end colonialism as a global mode of production, which really gives life to capitalism, and that is fundamental. And that's, Yeah, that's basically significance of the leadership of Chairman Madisera. So that's one aspect of it.
Okay, and I'm just interested as well in the ideology of African internationalism. Is that the same as Pan-Africanism as generally, or?
No, it's not. African internationalism is the point of view, the world view of the slave, of the colonized slave. If you think of Karl Marx, for example, he was looking at the world not from the point of view of the slave catching hell, being beaten, being flogged, being tortured, being raped, and all that. He was looking into the world. He was observing the world, explaining what's happening in the world from the position of the colonizer. The friend of Karl Marx, his name is Frederick Engels. Frederick Engels was a good friend of Karl Marx. Together, they attributed the developments of socialism, something like that. But what people don't know most of the time is that Engels supported financially Karl Marx. Gave Karl Marx money. It sustained Karl Marx and his family. But he was able to do it because Engels' daddy was involved in cotton trade. So the cotton being produced by Africans in the Americas, unpaid for centuries, was making Engels' daddy rich. And that money, he was able to fund the work of Karl Marx. That is the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. That's what we're saying. The starting point is colonialism. You see the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
It was funded by the money coming straight from Haiti. You heard about Haitian Revolution.
Yes.
And for freeing ourselves from direct colonial slavery from the French imposed a blockade, like the United States do to Cuba. You will not trade with anybody unless you pay France reparation for loss of property, because French could not control us, could not own us anymore. We have to pay France for the right to trade with anybody. And that money, the French say, okay, since you don't have the money, we're going to loan you money and you're going to pay us with interest. And that's the money the French used to build Eiffel Tower in Paris.
That was the start of neocolonialism in the loans, the sort of the debt and...
Yes. It's basically a continuity of colonialism as a starting point, as a mode of production, with which there is no capital. And you can check the history of the banks, all the banks, US banks, French banks, UK banks. You will see all of them, they have the history, the origin in colonial slavery. That's why we're saying colonialism is basically the starting point, the foundation. And this is a part of the war of ideas between the colonized and the colonizers. Who's going to control the narrative? Who's going to control the truth? So the lies of the bourgeoisie are being defeated, are being pushed out, and the truth of the slaves are taking center stage, because the whole world needs to hear and will benefit from the truth of the slave. Because the slave has no interest in telling lies. He wants to be free, or she wants to be free. It's the colonizers that need to tell lies because they don't want the world to change, so they can't tell the truth. So that fight between lies and truth is basically the struggle between the colonizers and the colonized. And we're winning that fight. And that's why I appreciate what you're doing, because you're participating also in that fight, so we can win that fight and we can have a new world where there are no colonizers and colonized, no wealthy country versus poor countries and things like that. It's outrageous to see people who have everything, but they are poor. They work so hard, but they are poor.
Yeah.
And people who do less, they have got everything. The world can't be like that.
honestly, it's outrageous. But what you're speaking of, it sounds like the dream. Luwezi, honestly, it sounds so idealistic. I don't know, how long do you think it will be before we kind of get to a situation like that, or do you think it will ever happen?
If you look at the world right now, you will see the world is changing. Yeah. If someone told you 15 years ago or 20 years ago that people will be talking about China being a contender for a world power at the expense of the United States, people say, you're laughing. I'm old enough to remember when people used to insult not just Chinese, but anybody. Using the French have a word, an expression. They say chinoiserie. It means you're being an idiot. But they use the word China. Chinoiserie. The French say Chine to mean China. You know, or another expression they use, they call you, like they call black people niggers. They call Chinese espèce espèce de sale, I'm not sure exactly. I forgot about the expression. It come back later on. But they used to use an expression basically to call you some kind of Chinese. They can't do that today. Nobody can do that today. Mm-hmm. At least openly they can't. Why? China is a world power now. You see? Yeah. And if you're looking around the world, what do you see? You see increasingly many countries, they're saying, we don't want to be dominated. We don't want to be colonized. Venezuela is saying no. Cuba has said no already. Vietnam said no before. Iran, they say we don't want to be dominated by the United States. Syria refuses to be dominated. People might say they can say anything they want to say about Afghanistan, but I watched the interview. One leader of the Afghanistan, he was asked a question if they can organize an orderly departure of the NATO and the US, and the African leader said, why will you give colonialism one more day? You see, so people are clear. They don't want to be colonized. They might be poor, but they don't want to be colonized. So basically, Chairman Omali Shela puts it this way. He says, the host is rejecting the parasite.
Beautiful.
That is why the world is in crisis. That is a major source of the crisis. The host everywhere is rejecting the parasite. That's why you see crisis everywhere right now. So it's not a bad thing to see crisis everywhere. It just means that the oppressors, the ruling classes, cannot rule in the same always. Even they want you to, but they can't. Why they can't? Because the host is rejecting them. See, and which means that you're looking at what we call acceleration of history. Just like the 60s was a kind of acceleration of history, but the United States was able to stop the revolution then. But there is a great leader of the Black Panther Party. He said you can kill revolutionaries, but you can't kill the revolution. So the revolution is coming back. You just can't kill the revolution. Everyone wants to be free. All suppressed nations of the world want to be free, and you can't stop that. No power to look into that.
I think one of the things, that we forget, especially about the 20th century, is like Kwame Nkrumah said to himself, it's like never before in history has there really been such a demand for freedom, such a huge movement as what happened across the global south, particularly in Africa. So many countries and places getting at least political freedom so quick and so demanding in such a short space of time. And I think, it's pushed forward, like you say, the rise of China. It's the first time in about 500 years we've seen a non-white country like really rise to look like it's going to be the power of the world. For at least for the last few centuries. So you can see, obviously, by listening to you, why the powers that be and the imperialists would fear your party and fear your organization. And obviously now there's been attacks that have happened in America.
Yes.
Against the party. So can you tell us a bit more about what happened and what was the situation?
So basically, on the 29th of July, early in the morning, 5 a.m., in St. Louis, in Missouri, the FBI organized a dawn raid, basically. They raided the home of our chairman, our leader, Chairman Marisela, and his wife, who also is a great organizer in her own rights, at a gunpoint. And they use, what do they call it, flashbang grenades. They came with armored vehicles. So it was just such an attack on the not just on our leader, our movement, but the community itself. So it was a serious attempt to intimidate, to silence basically our movement, our leaders. At the same time, they also, or almost at the same time, they also attacked the white leaders of our movement, those who work under our leadership. That's Chairwoman Penies. She was also attacked. And another leader of Solidarity Force, JC Neva, was also attacked. So just in St. Louis, they attacked Chairman Marichela, they attacked his wife, DC Ona Yistela, they attacked the White Solidarity Forces, Penies, and JC Neva. They confiscated the phones. In fact, not only confiscated their phones, they jammed their phones. So they couldn't communicate. You know, they jammed their phones, they confiscated their phones, or stole their phones, laptops, iPads. They took medical records, personal medical records, stole all these things. And also, they never, shown any warrants, and almost at the same time, they went to St. Petersburg. That's in Florida, where also they attacked our headquarters. They spent hours in that building. They stole bank information, 40 years of archives. They stole a lot of stuff. We still have to find out what exactly they've stolen, but over 40 years of archives. They stole all that. They destroyed our properties, and they rammed the doors. They also went to the home of our young leader, the leader of Ashid Prop, basically of the editor-in-chief of the Banning Spear newspaper, Director Akile Anai. They tricked her. They said, someone broke into your car. We want you to have a look. So when she went outside and the FBI used the opportunity to get into her car, of course, they took her phone, a laptop, and the things like that. So it was definitely a coordinated attempt to crush our movement, to frighten people who follow us, including white people who are part of our movement, because, as I said, we have been successful in organizing white people under our leadership in more than 130 cities in the U.S. That is unheard of. Because people say, you can't organize white people against their own interests. Yes, we can. And it's happening. So this is an attack on that. They came with liars that we're being manipulated by Russians. We got money from Russians. But if you have evidence, why don't you come with evidence first? They didn't come for no evidence because they have no evidence. There is no things like that. We don't get money from the Russians, stuff like that. And our struggle is not guided by the Russians. We've been fighting to be free for over 500 years before even we knew there is such a place called Russia. And by the way, when you look at the names of black people in America, you don't see the black person with a surname from Russia. What you see is black people with names from England, from France, from Germany, from Belgium, from Spain. You don't see names from Russia. So, and it's a violation for our civil right. It's a violation for our basic right to organize in our own interests. It's an insult to say that we cannot think for ourselves and we don't know what we want in the world. We know what we want. We want reparation from the United States government to begin with. We want black people in jail to be free. We want all political prisoners to be free. We want an end to, police containment of the black community. We want the United States government out of Africa. We want colonialism out of Africa. That's why we're saying hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. We know what we want. we don't need anybody, nor the Russian to tell us what we want. So that's where we are. That's why we appreciate this program, because we want support, solidarity from all the oppressed people and all freedom-loving people. That this also is an attack on you, because every attack on the colonized people who are fighting to be free is an attack on all colonized people, because we are known as a unconditional supporters of Palestine. This also is an attack on Palestine, because they know we are clear, we support the struggle of Palestine to get back the land, things like that. So it's profound. It's an attack on Africa, because they know we're organizing everywhere in Africa. In fact, we have an African plan. We are the only one to have an African plan. All the rest of African plans are colonial African plans. The U.S. African plan is known as AFRICOM. It's a military plan to control the resources of Africa. The gold, the diamond, everything. It's a colonial plan, things like that. So they know that. So this is, in fact, an attack on Africa. And we want people to understand that. That's what we're calling for. People will be listening to this program to get in touch with us and to be in solidarity with us and to demand the United States government, the FBI, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Luwezi. You know what? We stand with you, and we stand with the APSP and the message that you guys are delivering. 100%. It is so important, all of the work you're doing, and we're totally behind you. Tell us a little bit, just before we finish, about how we can stand up and support you.
Few things we can do to begin with. Spread this message as wide as possible. We're going to make it impossible for the oppressors to come after us, because they have to deal with all the oppressed people on the planet. And so you can send a solidarity message directly to us, so we can publish it. We can show the world we are not alone. You can join our events. We will be outside the United States Embassy on the 5th of November, which we want to mobilize widely. You can join us there too. And anyone who can also support us financially, because we expect to be charged. Because what they want to do, they want to prevent us from spending our money to deliver programs for our people. They want us to spend our money with the lawyers.
Yeah.
Make us incapable to that's what they want to do. So and also, if you know lawyers, we can join this struggle. They are welcome too. All the resources we can have, are welcome. So yes, that's what I can say. So if you see our video for chairman speaking about the case, you can share that. Video of Director Kile, share that. Or video of the Peniers, you can also share that. So basically, we have to win the war for the narrative. The narrative the people need to hear is the narrative of the colonized, of the oppressed. If you can facilitate that too, that would be great. So I appreciate my time with you. Comrade Hussein, there are two Fatima. So with the two Comrade Fatima. So I want to appreciate you all.
So much, Luwezi. Hussein, I think we'll be able to share some links to the APSP. Maybe their Instagram, if you have an Instagram page, and some of your social media networks. I'm sure we can promote that. And if our listeners are interested, they can always go and look at those pages and spread the news and spread awareness on that. But from us at Liberated Voices, we will be continuing with our next episode as usual next week. You can follow us on Instagram and all podcast platforms, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank you again so much, Luwezi, for all of your work and for coming and joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That's all from us. Hope to see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you again to everyone.